All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, fight fans. This is it. This is the year in review 2023. It's gone down. We're looking forward to 2024, but I got two guys who have been there in the action this whole time, this whole year. I got the great newly minted purple belts out there. He's in Austin, Texas, getting the great food. Mr. Dylan McGrath, the commentator for Fight For It, all those great fights you've seen. Also an instructor with Hometown Martial Arts in Raleigh, North Carolina. Got Mr. Seth Stevens. He's the instructor down there at Team Rock in Fayetteville. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Always an honor, Chaz.
Thank you very much, guys. I just, if you can put a grade on, I'll start with this question. If you can put a grade on for what you saw in the Carolinas this year as far as MMA action, what grade would you put it at?
I'm going to go with a C because I'm looking at the collective. Because I can't just say, man, Fight For It came and, bumped everybody up. You got to make every show responsible for their own actions, But I'm talking about the overall. There's some amazing moments, like if I said production, if I talked about commentary, if I talked about certain fighters, those things are on a level of A's and B's. But some of the overall things pull that average down a little bit. But we're just getting back. We got our promotion, our commission back. I'm gonna go with we're average right now. We're not on the level of what some of these other states are doing who've been doing it for 4 or 5 years straight. So I would say we're solid C.
That's a passing grade.
I think the Mad Coach is a tough critic, man. I think that's a tough grade. I would say, when you factor in the scene as a whole, because these guys that are fighting in these bigger shows are not fighting on our local shows, it doesn't mean they're not contributing to the local show. They contribute to the local show by bringing new talent to us, right? And I feel like when you look at what's going on as a whole, when you involve all those top level guys that are still in the mix, we'll probably talk about this more, but for instance, one of the best examples is Joe Selecki joining Jimmo. I think that's like one of the most no-brainer ideas I've ever heard. Him becoming a part of that team is going to step up the grappling such a level in that gym. And don't even get me started on Modern Warrior and all this other stuff. We're going to talk about a lot of the teams later. But overall, I'd say my grade is B. Not much higher than Sess's, but I just think that compared to the previous year, of what everything as a whole, shows as a whole, promotions as a whole, it's all trending in the right direction. I know that there were some shows that weren't ideal, some shows that still have a long way to go, but I think that things are heading in a brighter direction than I could foresee over the horizon last year.
B's and C's are passing. So we'll take those. Not bad. Coach Chess, you touched on this, and I had finally had to make a video about it earlier in the year. What does the North Carolina Boxing Commission have to do to fix some of their problems and correct it going into 2024?
Work with the teams more. We're not talking to them, and they're not talking to us. They make their rules, and it's basically almost like a bureaucracy, and we just follow those instructions. We don't have any say-so. But, Larry Carter has talked to me in the past. We can go to the training. We can take the year-end training that they do to help, make the rules and help the referees become trained. We don't have to become referees, but the training would be helpful so we know what their expectations are, and then we can give them some insights, in terms of, hey, some of these new fighters are making mistakes inside of that cage that have nothing to do with their opponent, like the kid from Carolina Combat Sports and Fitness, Ali.
Yeah.
That guy ducked into that kick because he was in the dressing room making that same mistake. I was watching him. So that Ali shouldn't have to pay for that, Yeah. And so commissions need to be aware that a lot of these newer teams and younger fighters are trying new tricks that they think will work. And guys like Ali have to pay for it, because if I'm looking at the video and I looked at the trajectory of his kick, he's aiming for the body. So we need to work more together and actually have open discussions. It's not unusual. In the past, when I was in different states, they used to have people that went around to different gyms and actually showed up and looked at the training. So we just got to get more communication. We're just getting back. So, like Dylan said, there's going to be some snafus here and there until we get back on track.
Yeah, my opinion is that they're already doing a lot of the things they need to do. But I think this year they got a little bit of a wake-up call. UFC in Charlotte.
Yeah.
I think it's a big wake up call for them. South Carolina was able to step up and take on a load of these North Carolina shows, and they were prepared as a result to come into the inheritance of some of these larger shows. Like I'm talking bare knuckle here. The commission was prepared to undertake that responsibility. When you take a year and a half off and you come back in and you have reps that haven't repped in a year and a half and you're going to stick them in a UFC cage, that's not a good idea, no matter how you slice it, no matter what commission. I do think that, the teams attending the trainings is good. Trevor just went to both, and he had some good combos with Al, and Al has reassured us that they are doing re-qualification and retesting on some of these older heads in the commission that are coming. But you have guys that are in that commission that care a lot, and judges that care a lot about the fight game and train. And I think that more guys like, I'm not sure of his last name, but Chris. If you guys go to the fights, Chris. He's a younger guy. He's one of the judges. He's always there. He cares a lot about the fights, and he knows a lot about the fights. And from what I've seen, I've never seen him, not directly honed in on the action during a fight, which I think is something that all judges are pretty much guilty of, zoning out or looking away or whatever. But that guy's locked in. And that's the kind of behavior I want to see from a judge. Similar with the refs. I want to see the refs protecting the athletes. I want that to be the focus in the amateur ranks, especially when you talk about these kids fights. I think the protection of the athletes is the most paramount thing, but at the same time, the rules that we have here are stuck in the Bronze Age of MMA. I mean, we're still doing a same-day weigh-in. We're still doing no head kicks. We're still not giving fighters the option to make agreements between themselves for head kicks or shin guards or whatever. There's all these things that all these other commissions, in the time that we've had one rule set, they've had 2 or 3 major rule set changes.
And if I could jump in there real quick.
Yeah, please.
That's kind of my point, is I want us as teams to work with the commissions so they can learn to trust us so that they can make those rule changes. A lot of times, if we still have guys ducking into head kicks, they are a little concerned about how we operate that cage, how we operate any fight in the arena. So we need to get on board as teams. I love the fact that I see more teams cross-training these days, so we can learn some really simple basic fundamentals and strong ideas about how to train better, and so that when we get in there, it's all about the performance, but at the same time, like Dylan was saying, it's about that safety, but they've got to trust us to change those rules. We don't want to suddenly change the rules and then we've got 6-7 guys on the first show going to the hospital. Vince
McMahon always used to tell people before they went out for a big match where he knew that there was a high risk level involved. I think the first time he said it was before the first ever ladder match. He said it to Shawn Michaels. He said, "Remember, Shawn, safe but spectacular." That's what needs to be. Safe, but you still need to have the desire to deliver as a referee. You want to give these fighters the chance to be the fighters, to deliver on their training, to have all those things in the lead up to the fight come to a fruition, come to a natural head. There's nothing worse than training for 3 months or doing a camp, and then the fight falls out, you're back in camp, and next thing you know, you're training for 3 straight months. The fight finally happens, and it gets called off in the second doing an eye poke, in the case of, Dalton Taylor, for instance. I think that things like that, they leave a bad taste in both fighters' mouth. The winner, the loser. If it's a draw, definitely both guys. But things are heading in the right direction. I just think we need to pick up the pace. One thing that I think could help is they used to, when I first started covering the sport, before I did commentary, I did media. I went to 2 years in a row of a open forum in Raleigh, but with the Athletic Commission. It was like a town hall where you could come. Me and Saul from Immortales were there. Trev, that was one of the first times I met Trevor. There were a lot of coaches there. And I think they stopped doing that because they didn't want to get a verbal lashing from the coaches, because that's kind of what it turned into every time. But they need to have that feedback. They need to be connected to the scene. And if none of them are going to be in an MMA gym, they need to be talking to people that are in an MMA gym at the very least, right? So right. I have a lot of faith in Al Coley. I have a lot of faith in Al Coley, and I have a lot of faith in a lot of the guys on that commission. So I'm sure that they want what's best for the fighters at the end of the day.